Hi, I'm Jen Henning from FlippedNormals.com, and this is going to be a little bit different. This is let's call it the reintroduction of the FlippedNormals podcast. We've had some podcast episodes in the past, but never anything structured, never anything where we've gone, okay, now we should do a podcast. But Henning and I have been talking for a while about this, and I know it's something that he's been wanting to do for a very long time. It's taken me a little while to get on board as well. But I think we found a format that can work and something that we think will be interesting for our viewers and listeners. And so essentially we want to do a podcast where we just talk about stuff. We talk about FlippedNormals, we talk about what's going on with us, everything in the company, the YouTube channel, everything that we can't quite fit into, I guess, normal content format. But also we want to extend it beyond that, talking about relevant CG news, anything that's happening within the industry, and I guess kind of just take it from there. That's sort of the plan.
Yeah, so this is just a beginning for that. We're very excited to get started with this. We'll see how it goes. It's not going to be anything too formal. Very excited to go into specifically news, talking about like the state of the economy in terms of how that's affecting the whole industry.
Oh, so interesting.
Oh yes, so there's plenty of really cool topics coming up. But yeah, today we're just going to be talking about what's been going on over the last many years.
Well, yeah, because it has been many years. You know, Henning and I started FlippedNormals 10 years ago now. It's 10 years and a couple of weeks, actually, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like October 9th or 11th or something like that. That's when we purchased the domain and everything got started. And back then, the goal was to make tutorials. You know, we just wanted to create content and publish it. And that all started with a basic WordPress website, a basic theme where we sort of got started with that. And we didn't really think about a marketplace or how to expand into any of that. It was just us doing tutorials. I remember at the time, we put everything on Vimeo because that was like the professional platform. Like we didn't want to do YouTube because I don't know, I can't remember why, but we felt like Vimeo would give like a more professional vibe to it. And then slowly, you know, over the coming years, everything sort of transitioned over to YouTube and everyone started doing YouTube anyway. So I think we jumped on that train and realized that Vimeo wasn't really the greatest platform for indexing and searching, especially not compared to how YouTube is doing it, at least.
It used to be really good, but then when we started going back to making videos like properly in 2018, right before we quit our jobs, we looked into Vimeo and you had to pay for it now. You had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And with the amount of videos we had, we had to pay a lot of money. So we just decided just to ditch it. But also back in 2013, YouTuber wasn't really a thing. It's like, it was just starting to become like a thing you could be. You didn't really have famous YouTubers, not to the same extent. And it didn't really make sense. We want to focus more on like high quality training. And we didn't really get started with that properly until like 2018. So that was quite a ride, just getting to that point.
I think for me, there was sort of this connotation with YouTube versus Vimeo that content on YouTube was more like amateur content, and and content on Vimeo was professional content. I can't actually remember where I got that into my head, but that was sort of like the mantra that followed us for a while. But like back to the website stuff, actually, that's what I wanted to quickly touch on. You know, so ever since starting FlippedNormals, web development has been like this tiny focus where, okay, we needed a website, we needed to do something. And I did a lot of the WordPress stuff and looking into that, but I'm not a web developer. I didn't know anything about coding or anything at the time. It was more just how can we jerry rig a couple of themes together and make everything work. And so that's kind of what we did. And that followed us for a long time. You know, we got in touch with some developers, a handful of developers over the next couple of years that were very helpful. You know, they gave us, in retrospect now, insane discounts on especially for the features that got developed and what we got for the money. And at the time, it was like, you know, it was a obscene amount of money for us because we didn't have that kind of money to put into to building a website. I think when we launched the second version of the FlippedNormals marketplace, we had done like version 1 of the marketplace was me and like just going on Stack Overflow. And I remember talking like to some theme developers, and they were kind enough to give me code to do kind of what we wanted. But for version 2, we had a web developer who helped us, and I think it was like £5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was
like the full version. Which in retrospect is crazy now for a full functioning website, especially when you think about that was the core that sustained us and helped us grow our brand for the next 4 years or something like that. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was about that. I think we launched that in 2019, and then we launched a new one in 2022, end of that. So yeah, like three years, about that.
Yeah.
And that was the foundation.
And that was a big step for us. And that sort of kept us going for a long time, actually. Also, I think until we switched over. I mean, in the meantime, we did a lot of work with developers after that, developing specific features. Because like the first iteration we had of that, you couldn't even upload to us. That was like this ghetto setup where you had to upload through a third-party service that would send us an email with the attachment, and then we would manually upload that to Amazon, and then sort of like manually input it and everything. It worked well in the beginning because it was so limited, and there weren't a lot of people. And but soon we realized that obviously, people needed to be able to upload themselves. So there was a lot of this stuff going on all the time with basic solutions, or solutions that this was what we could afford, while we sort of continued to scale everything and build up the marketplace. And I think, when did we start actual development on the version that is now live?
We started with that. The first calls we had with the agency was in February of 2021.
Henning's Rain Man date brain is always helpful for this. I like me and dates. I don't know. He could have said 6 years ago. Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Fair enough. 2010.
And that was the start of a long journey, a much longer and more expensive journey than we could have ever imagined. Knowing what I know now, geez, man, a lot of decisions. We learned a lot through that, building that marketplace. So I think that was definitely beneficial also for us as a team. But the development process was hard, and getting to where we are now, I mean, I'm really satisfied with the product. I can't remember. We've shared some of this in the past where we've talked about the delays and stuff. And I have a FlippedNormals page on Indie Hackers where I do diary updates. Like, they're very short diary updates. So it's like, basically like a tweet where we just update about financials and how much things cost, and delays or positive milestones, whether it be creator payouts or how much we've made and that kind of stuff. And it helps keep me sane, and it helps keep me like get my thoughts straight, like remember the order of things, because so many things happen all the time. It can be a little bit tricky. But essentially we started with a Ukrainian developer. Like, we picked it out from I can't remember. We did a bunch of interviews and email correspondences with developers, and finally landed on one that sounded like they were going to be able to help us achieve what we wanted. They'd built marketplaces in the past, and it seemed to go well for a while. But after, what was it, like 6 months maybe? 4 months?
About a year from the first call. That was when stuff started to go proper bad with that. Yeah, we sort of realized that they weren't able to stick to deadlines, and I think in like the best way I can describe it is they sort of lied about maybe not their abilities, but I think they heavily underestimated the task, and I think they didn't really want to fess up to that, so they kept us going for a while until everything started to
point towards something was wrong, very, very wrong. And we worked with them, continued to work with them for a while until we could switch over to a new developer. Because at this point, we had sort of like, we were investing in this new platform, the current one, to be like the next big iteration of FlippedNormals. So we were investing, I mean, all of our liquidity went into that project because, you know, we wanted to have something scalable, have something that we could use for many years, because it became very apparent that the size that we grew to fairly quickly, WordPress just wasn't able to handle. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise whenever they found out that FlippedNormals was running on WordPress, which is funny because, I mean, it's just a blog, but it's a pretty solid framework, but just not designed for what we wanted to use it for.
We really only had three options at this time. Like we could either just let the current site, the WordPress one, just run its course, and that would have failed at some point. At some point, it just shut down, and we couldn't figure out how to get it back up again. And worked on that for 3 days doing manual data entry. Good fun. Turns out we didn't have to do that, but we did. Second option was do kind of like an in-between version, like basically a new WordPress site, but with developers building it. That would have been much, much cheaper than what we ended up with, but who knows what we probably would have to rebuild that in some years anyway. And the third one was just build a foundation, build a proper foundation with custom code. No, you don't build it on top of some other existing framework like WordPress, and then you control everything. The issue we had with the WordPress one was that if we wanted to do something specific, we couldn't really do everything we wanted. You want to have the VAT included in the final price at the end. Can't do that. So many things we just genuinely couldn't do. And now whatever we ask for in terms of development, whatever we design, we can have the exact thing we want. Costs a lot of money though. And that's a big difference between going from this like really indie site, just like a few people just doing their best, to actually rebuilding it and working with real agencies, real developers, not just doing a little job on like basically like equivalent to Fiverr, right? When it comes to code, you're actually commissioning a real company where people's salaries are reliant on what you're doing. It's very, very difficult to do that transition.
Yeah, and at the point when we started development, you know, the way that it had been going for a while was very much like I was still on content creation, but it was on a steady decline because every month the site got worse. You know, we had more users, more products. The database just couldn't handle it. So I was just constantly on janitor duty. Like things break. Oh, okay, I have to fix something. I have to try to fix something, being not a developer, trying to learn stuff. And, you know, then we would hire someone to come in and fix something, bring the site back up. And that actually happened quite a lot. And it started happening to a point where we could see that it wasn't sustainable anymore. So we had to do something. And that's where we decided on going with an agency to fully rebuild the marketplace from the ground up. I think that is the best decision, but it was a lot of time and a lot of money. I think the original budget that we were quoted was like 250,000.
Yeah, I think that was for the MVP of that basic version that does what you want to, but nothing fancy.
And the full version was maybe like 400,000. I think that's where we ended up. And for us at the time, we were like, okay, we can do this. It's going to be tricky, and we'll have to figure out what do we do with salaries and what do we do with allocation of funds. But let's try to make this work. Little did we know we would end up spending almost twice that trying to get everything up and running. You know, I mean, Henning and I had a full year of no salaries actually in order to try and compensate for that, which is crazy to think about actually.
Yeah, last year we didn't draw a single penny in salaries there. Let me tell you, don't do that. That's so difficult.
That's terrible.
And in that time, you got a house. I moved from Denmark to London. And doing an international move when you're in that situation, don't recommend.
Yeah, I got a kid as well, a beautiful little girl, and so that happened on top of everything as well. that was a stressful year. I would say like the transition period from when we wanted to switch from the first developer to our new one. That was like the most intense one, like negotiating with the old developer and trying to get to that intersection where we would transition over to the new developer, have them take over. How do we minimize costs? How do we not get screwed over by the old developer? That was like, I think that's probably one of the most stressful periods I've ever had in my life. I'm really thankful that's over. You know, and I don't want it to become like one of these like a pity fest. It was like, oh, FlippedNormals, it's so hard for us. But it's like, that was tricky, you know, and I'm glad we made it to the other side, to where we are now.
I had
but it's definitely been intense.
Oh, there was the time where we were doing this, going back and forth between negotiations, where I was looking for housing in London during a heat wave in August. It was like the heat waves in London are unlike anything else. They're different than like other places. So it was like 36 degrees. There is no aircon anywhere. I'd been running around the whole day looking for a flat here in the city, and then we just had to have a call right next to a bus stop. While it's scorching heat, I've been walking like crazy, sweaty like nothing else. Basically, no battery left on the phone. That was not fun. Let's not do that again.
No. I mean, luckily we're at a much more stable point now, and I think also more importantly for our users and customers, that one thing that we started to see towards the end of, let's call it version 2 of the marketplace, was an influx of customer support that was just, it was unsustainable. Like, we would spend so much time fixing things and then going to customer support because things were breaking for our customers. And we had sort of synonymized ourselves with, you know, it's a curated content. Everything that makes it on to the marketplace is curated. It's not like individual products aren't always checked, but creators are vetted, and we make sure that everything is good, and we can get behind the quality. But it just got to a point where the website, the functions of the website didn't live up to the kind of products that we had, because we just couldn't maintain it at that point. And I think that was one of the hardest things, was seeing all the hard work that we had put in with products, curation, the YouTube channel, wasn't reflected in the browsing experience, the buying experience for customers, which is in stark contrast to now, where we actually have a fully functional website that I'm very, very proud of. Henning and I have talked about this a lot, sort of internally, where whenever we've had to show the website to someone, whether it be other developers, friends, even family, you know, it's always been like, okay, I'm kind of ashamed to show it, because you never know what's going to happen when you open it. Maybe it's down, maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't open products or whatever. Whereas now we can confidently show it to anyone, and we know that it's going to work. Obviously, there's still bugs. There always will be with a website, but I think we're in a much more comfortable position now when it comes to the marketplace, at least.
Genuinely very happy with where it's at. I mean, we sacrificed a lot to put into it. Not like, again, not a sad sub story, but just we genuinely care about the users, the customers we have on the site. For me, it's not even so much just about the customers per se. It's something deeper than that. It's the fact that the products we're selling, we genuinely want that to improve somebody's lives. Like, if you're learning 3D, we genuinely believe that the tutorials we're doing, like the exclusives or the tutorials our creators are doing, can actually change people's lives. We know they've done that in the past. You have people who don't have the privilege of going to a traditional school. They can get cheap, affordable courses. Or if you're in a school that's not doing what it's supposed to, you can supplement your education there. Or if you're working professionally and you need something like really high quality alphas or brushes, you can really speed up your work there. So if you're freelance or a studio, you can genuinely improve your career with that. And the better we are at our job about providing the platform, providing our tutorials, and also like the YouTube videos, the bigger impact we're going to be able to do there. And not being able to fully maximize that, not being able to do the best job we could because of the code we had, that was very, very frustrating. We genuinely want to do the best we can for the community, right? There aren't that many big communities in the 3D industry like that, and I think we can make an impact, a very positive impact in a bunch of people's lives. So it's awesome to be able to go back to that. For me, it's also like going back to YouTube. Haven't done that properly in a long time.
Same.
Actually going back and providing, you know, high quality free content. Like we just launched a Topogun video the other day. It's just kind of one of the things I want to do is, it's not a part of a larger course. It's just a standalone video. Took me 2 days to properly research this, learned everything I reasonably could about Topogun. Just getting into that and then just providing that kind of stuff for free to the community. Like that stuff makes me genuinely really happy to do. And now, because of the situation we're in with the stable website, we have Morten back on creative things. And that's awesome, because if I'm just sitting by myself and doing stuff by myself, it's hard to do. It's hard to come up with ideas. You don't really refine the ideas. And obviously 2 people is much better than 1. So I can't wait to output a lot more fun content, educational things, just kind of putting life back into our channel. We're seeing that it's a very stale channel in terms of how much is coming out of it. And also, like, obviously the subscriber count as well is like entirely stagnant. And I really want to just go back into that. That would make me very happy if we can see that we can revitalize the YouTube channel, we can get more content out there for both commercial and free training. That would make me very happy. Go back to like old school FlippedNormals in a sense.
I mean, that was the whole backbone of how we got started with this, right? You know, we had a few paid things, like, you know, our creature modeling, what's it called? Creature concepting in Seaverse or something?
Yeah.
It's like the first paid tutorial we did. But, you know, we were also doing tons of free content. And I think that was how we started creating value for people, was adding all of this free content that you then had access to. Because at the time, there wasn't really a lot. You know, if you wanted access to high quality content, and I mean, in the beginning, let's be honest, our content probably wasn't high quality, you know, because we still had to learn a lot. And we hadn't even started working as professionals, but we had worked as hobbyists in our mom's basement for a long time, but with no real industry experience at that point. But that was how we tried to create value for other people around us. And, you know, it's one of the things that I haven't seen or experienced to the same extent that Henning has, because over the last few years, I've sort of taken a backseat to like anything public facing with FlippedNormals due to the website. Not because I didn't want to, but because we needed it. And the things that always kept me motivated and going was every time Henning, he would like show me a post or a tweet from someone who was like, "Hey Henning, I don't know if Morten's still alive, but I just wanted to tell the 2 of you that, you know, I love your content and I've watched it for like 3 or 4 years and I now have a job because of you." That was the kind of stuff I was like, okay, there's still a point to trying to keep going, even though it's hard. And so all of those things were always super motivating for me. And so I am in fact still alive, as you might have been able to guess. But yeah, all those messages, seeing those all the time, has been super motivational for me as well to keep going and get back into this as well, I would say.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions from people I meet being like, are you still doing freelance? What VFX studios are at if they haven't been following what we're doing? But I mean, this has been our full-time job for over 5 years now. We quit our jobs in VFX in June 4th, 2018. Yeah. And that's like 4 years. That's 5 years and a few months ago now, 4 years and like 4 months now. So 5 years and 4 months, like that's quite a long time. So this is our full-time job. We don't do freelance. We don't work for anyone else. We create content, and FlippedNormals is our full-time job. And when you're so deep into it, like Morten has been here with development, that stuff is tricky. Like it's like you haven't seen daylight for a long time. So
no,
very exciting now to like still be able to do stuff like now, the way we can actually do these more regular calls, like just seeing like there's a spark, like there's a real spark in a team again. Yeah. It's so cool to see. I kind of think about it so like if you're just one person, then like it's kind of like 1 + 1 is just 2, just a simple equation there. But if you have 2 people together like this, like 1 + 1 is like 12. Like it just becomes a whole different thing. We had this the other day where we were talking about the a 10-year anniversary, and we're just going back and forth about like Morton's wife works for us as well, Amelia, and she was mentioning 10-year anniversary, and I was mentioning, yeah, I would love to do an art challenge relating to that, and Morton is like, I'm on it, and then right away we just were, he was just sitting for a few days and just going back to the old forum we had for the art challenges, hasn't been doing for a few years, and then I went to Cyprus, went diving, and while I was there, the art challenge was just up and running with real prizes. You should join that as well if you're interested in art challenge. It's like $1,000 prizes.
Definitely join that.
But just awesome to actually be able to like properly do stuff, because that's something that we want to do for a long while as well. Like art challenges, they're awesome, and we also just want to do something there which is not just having tons of sponsors and having to worry about all that. We just like we're just gonna give away $1,000 because we figured you can exchange currency for goods and services, so you might as well just get $1,000 and then you can actually buy the tutorials you want to buy instead. So very excited about that. With a lot of layoffs happening as well, I think we can the winner there can actually be helped a fair bit, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things we actually thought about when we talked about the challenge. We talked about sponsors and prizes and stuff like that, but I think we just quickly came to the conclusion that what people need right now is just money. So if we could, if we're able to provide some relief for a couple of people, that would be amazing. And then host the challenge as well, because it's been a long time. I think 2019 was the last challenge. So that's
I think it was a bit later. It's years ago. No,
I think that tells you something about the kind of pressure we've been under in terms of content creation, that there really just hasn't been room for it. Like Henning has been on that alone for years now, essentially. The last thing I produced was that full character in ZBrush, the Dark Souls inspired one. And that was like, okay, I have some time, I want to do this, but always, with the interruptions from the website. So I'm excited to be back as a team, the team FlippedNormals, to do stuff like this. And we've experienced this already, like Henning talked about, where, we just sit down and just have some conversations about, okay, so what's been happening? And then all of a sudden we figure out things that we would like to do, like to experiment with, and really get the ball rolling. That's what we used to do. We would go for walks in the park, and then we would just talk about FlippedNormals. What can we do? What kind of products can we release? What kind of videos should we make? And that was we did that daily, a few years back, where we would just, that's our routine. We would go out for a walk in the morning or a lunch or something, pick up some lunch, then talk about strategies. Not so much strategies, but like low-key FlippedNormal strategies and what to do. And then we'll come home and execute on those. And so that's the part I'm excited to get back to, where we actually start creating things again, because that's been sorely missing from our library. One person can only create so much, and I think, Henning, you've done an amazing job at keeping that alive.
Thank you.
so it actually looks like we're still a functioning company.
What has been interesting with that, though, is that obviously by doing the different things, like me focusing mostly on content creation and you focusing on dev, we actually got pretty decent at it. Like you got a very good technical base for that, to the point you understand. If you can't program directly, at least you have understand stuff to a fairly high level. And me doing tutorials, turns out when you do tutorials every day, all the time, you just get a better intuitive feel for that. So like recently we made a whole series of YouTube videos and articles just talking about like, what have we learned? If you want to make your own tutorials, how do you go about that? And just trying to get everything we learned into that. But also just our own tutorials are so much better than they used to be. When you start out, you generally don't know anything. You just kind of know some CG. Let's kind of talk about how we do that kind of stuff. And then you learn that there's a whole thing underneath this called being a teacher. And that's an actual skill. So that's something I had to learn. I had to learn to become a teacher. I mean, that's one of the reasons whenever I get an opportunity to go to like a classroom as well. Like I went to Bournemouth to teach the masterclass students there, like sculpting some months back, and always try to do that kind of stuff if I have the opportunity, because it's just a different thing when you have to talk to people instead of just sitting on a Discord and just like chatting with folks. So that's been really useful. just genuinely becoming a fairly decent, I think hopefully, right, a fairly decent teacher, both when it comes to the YouTube videos, but also like the longer courses where we have a structure for it now. We're working on Intro to Mari course, and doing that is kind of
An actual
straightforward.
intro to Mari. Yes.
An actual Intro to Mari this time. Not the fantasy one.
Finally.
Finally. So there's tons of cool stuff there. It just becomes a bit of a, not even a routine in a bad way, but you just kind of feel some level of seniority when it comes to creating things. You can sit down and you can just start to block something out. But also because we can help other people create tutorials as well. That's something I would really like to do as well. There are so many extremely talented artists out there who would also be good teachers. We just have to reach them, be sure that they know that they can actually make a decent living out of doing tutorials. Hopefully getting those tutorials up on FlippedNormals as well. Particularly now there are more layoffs in the industry as well. I know a lot of people there could use a supplementary income for that. So hopefully that's kind of like everyone helping each other. People can create content to help their lack of income if they lost a job and they have real expertise in something. And then we can also use that to like grow our platform. And then the people who will be buying the courses are people who are also going to be influenced in a very positive way by that. If you're an expert on like trim sheets or level designs or anything like that, and people who want to become game artists, they get your knowledge, then they're going to have a better chance of entering the industry, right? Like it's all like cyclical, everything is connected. And one person doing a positive, like something positive, that can really have a big impact on other people. So that's something I would love to foster, like get more people into creating content, even if it's just like, even if it doesn't end up in FlippedNormals, it's just like free YouTube videos or something, just like helping the community as a whole. I think that would be amazing. I would really love to do that.
Yeah, because I think it's also like I think we've talked about that before in terms of success of FlippedNormals and whatnot. Like it's not about your piece of the pie. It's like about how the size of the pie. And if we can help grow the pie, everyone sort of wins. Of course, we have an incentive in that as well because we want to make a living. But the more people we can help, the better, because that helps more people maybe enter the industry or become better. They get a job. So it's sort of like a win-win scenario in that regard. And that's been our motivation for a long time, actually. It's been a long time coming, and there's so much more that we can do, and I'm excited to finally be back on that. And now we've produced content. I have produced content now. It's been a while, so we just recorded a video, like a Halloween sculpting video that should be out now, and then this one here. So it's kind of this strange transition where, like Henning said, I've spent the last couple of years just with developers and have gotten good at that thing. Not something that I ever thought that I would be able to add to my skill set. Sort of half production manage, half like just doing developer briefs, and I can't really check code. I can understand stuff when I'm explained, but like syntax and whatever I can sometimes get, I know the basics of HTML and CSS, some JavaScript and stuff, but nothing crazy. I can't do crazy stuff. Like I can't build a marketplace. And after seeing what goes into that, I'm even more amazed that it's up and running. Just like the technical knowledge of a lot of people, of so many people, had to like come together in order to build that. And I'm amazed that it's possible. I think at one point we had maybe 8 or 10 developers at any one point, working for us.
I think so. Yeah.
And obviously that's a massive money drain, and we could only do that for a little bit. But it was everything from agency production managers to developers, QA people. We had people writing documentation. We had people for front end, for back end, for everything that had to do with Amazon, all the server stuff. Like it was intense at one point, actually. And I'm glad we sort of scaled down from that. And now we're actually sort of like developer free. We occasionally have small things where it's like small bugs or something, and we will contact the previous developers. But right now we're sort of on a developer hiatus and just getting back on our feet and making sure that everything is up and running again. There are still, things that are missing from the platform, and we realized that. It was one of the compromises we had to make was, what do you cut away in order to get everything up and running and give the most amount of people a good experience? And so one of the things that I know that I promised this on Twitter a couple of times as well, that soon we would bring wish lists back, but then budgets changed, and I'm gonna have to break my promise on that. So it's gonna be a little while before we can bring wish lists back, but it's definitely one of the first features that we'll be adding when we start the next development sprint, which will hopefully still be a while away, because now I want to focus on this for a while.
Yeah, one of the things I kind of want to change industry wide, I suppose, is it's so easy to measure success, particularly if you're like a venture capitalist or if you're a VC backed company, you're backed by investments, that your metrics of success is just how many users do you have. It's purely like every user is just a number. Kind of want to be sure that our success is measured by how many people's lives we've actually improved with this. Just like how many tutorials what tutorials can people get access to, what YouTube videos can people get access to, and just like actually making a difference in people's lives. I want that to be kind of a metric of how well we're doing instead of just pure numbers. And the good news by doing that, by doing better in that area, we do also improve the pure financials as well. So it is connected. I just want to be like user first, like artist first.
Yeah,
I think that would be really, really nice to continue focusing on.
I think that's also one of the things that I wouldn't say have limited us, but it's definitely been something that we thought about a lot. I think this is true, and anyone who does any type of online content creation can probably relate to this, is that your success is measured in your metrics. So your viewers, your subscribers, like the number of it, that's always what you measure against. And while it's true in some regard, it's also an unhealthy way, I think, to try to propel your business. And this, for example, this video, a podcast video thing, we know from experience that these types of videos, these types of podcasts, whatever it might be, aren't as popular as the more short form stuff that we do. It doesn't get as many views. It doesn't gain as much traction. And that's really been holding me back in the past. But I think I've gotten to a point now where it's less about that, but it's more producing content that maybe even just a few people find useful. And if we could do that enough, I think that will be my measure for success. Like Henning says, if we can help real people, not that it's awesome with views and subscribers. We know that a lot of that means people are supporting us, but the whole thing about being motivated and that coming from real people that get a job or their lives are changed because of it, that means a lot more to me, and it helps motivate me a lot more than I think views and just general metrics did in the past.
I'd be curious to hear what people want to see from us as well. Like we have a long list now of things. Maybe Morten and I do some art challenges together, some like head to head, or we just have a lot more discussions on things. So yeah, just let us know what you want to see. One thing I really want to discuss in a future video is like, what the hell is happening with the industry? Like in terms of layoffs,
yes.
What's going on with the economy of it, in terms of the film and the games industry. Everything is just turbulent there at the moment. Made a lot of notes for that. That's something I would love to properly get into. Hopefully we can shed a little bit of light on that. Hard to say exactly, putting a finger on it, but it's there are definitely trends there. So tons of stuff like that. I want to do more technical things, a lot more Mario tutorials. When I say a lot more, I want to do Mario tutorials.
A lot more from zero is not hard.
Hey, we have a few Mario tutorials from back in 2018. Now they are outdated, but... yeah, no, just
the texturing principles are the same. So
yeah, kind of somehow.
But even that, that's a thing that now that we're both here and we can brainstorm our fingers on the pulse, we're able to stay more flexible. So you know, if something were to happen, when Substance sort of redid the way that everything is being textured in Substance, we could, okay, so now there's new technology there. How does that compare to Mari? That's the type of content. It's like CG news content in a way that we've wanted to do for a while to help like disseminate all the knowledge, and people don't have to read a bunch of stuff, but they can watch our videos to get that overview. That's something that we've wanted to do for a while, but the resources just haven't been there. But now they are. And you know, when we started out years ago, I think we did 2 videos a week for like a long time, right?
We did that until,
like, if I remember correct.
Yeah, we did it for ages.
And that was, I mean, that was crazy. It was very stressful to do that. But it was also the type of production that we did with those videos. So, you know, we might be able to get back to some of that where we do a lot more regular content. I mean, we have to get back to that to keep growing and to stay relevant, obviously. But I'm excited about working and doing stuff with FlippedNormals now for the first time in a long time. You know, it very quickly became, the development stuff for me was just something that had to be done, and I just had to do it. So for a number of years there, it wasn't a lot of fun working on FlippedNormals. Like every day was like, okay, it's just another day, let's just get through this. So I'm excited to be on the other side of that now, where, you know, every day I'm excited to do stuff. I'm excited to do content. I'm excited to have chats with Henning. I'm excited to plan the day. I'm excited to plan the weeks to figure out what kind of content can we create. And also getting back into creating tutorials will be an important one for me. We've talked about it here as well, that one of the things that we're missing is gaming or games content. You know, obviously we come from a VFX background, and that's where we've done most of our work. But with where the industry is heading for games and entertainment, games is something that both of us want to add to our tool build. You know, not necessarily becoming professional games artists, but getting deep enough into it that we can start providing helpful content to everyone out there. Because I don't think that at this point, I mean, you don't necessarily need to have been a professional within the industry, whether it be gaming, commercials, VFX, in order to effectively teach it. There's definitely going to be some things where you will need the input of actual professionals, so you don't say stuff that's wrong. And we'll definitely be sure to surround ourselves with other professionals to fact check us. But we know that at this point, from experience, that we've developed a system for describing knowledge, or like giving away knowledge to people that seems to work. And so I don't see that, you know, that challenge of retrofitting all that into games isn't going to be that tricky. There will of course be technical challenges where the differences between VFX and games are going to come in, but I'm hoping that adding that to our library of courses and assets or whatever it may be is going to be really beneficial to everyone out there.
Yeah, so just to clarify on that, when Morten is saying not going to be that tricky, that does not mean easy. That our perspective on what's hard to do is bootstrapping a company like FlippedNormals from absolutely nothing, rebuilding websites all the time, and getting to that point. That is tricky. That is very, very, very tricky to do. But with this is like a series of technical steps. We have to increase our understanding of tools, of techniques, and all that. But it's like a solvable problem. And the thing we're doing a company, a little side step here, but the thing we're doing a company is that you never really know if your choices are the correct ones. You sometimes those choices are validated like right away. Sometimes they're validated in a year. Sometimes you just never know. Should you spend $5,000 on an ad campaign for something? Maybe not. If you spend that money, you don't genuinely know if it works or not, even if you get metrics on it. It's difficult. But game dev or learning topology or learning anything like that, that's a solved problem. Like you can go to a professional game artist and you can say like, this is what I want to say. Is this correct or is this not correct? And they can very accurately say, you're kind of being a dummy here, or this is like, yeah, this is correct.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can validate what you're talking about real fast. And if you, one of the good ways to learn this kind of stuff is I'm going to be posting this kind of stuff on Twitter all the time. Like you can follow Morten and I on Twitter there for our updates, upcoming stuff there. And whenever I post something that's not going to be correct, somebody's going to correct that right away. And then like, aha, I won this one because I learned something, right? So it's a really good way to learn how to do this. I can't wait to get started real time.
Was really great. Oh man, a sec, my voice is. I'm not used to talking for. Oh wow. So apparently I'm having bodily technical difficulties. My throat is cutting out. It's not even the microphone or anything. But I think this also sort of leaves us in a good spot. We wanted to update everyone on what's been going on and where we've been. You know what the plan was going forward. We did an update video like 8 months ago where we said we're back, but that was a lie. It wasn't a lie at the time because we thought we were back. Turns out we weren't. You know, the website was still heavily acting up.
We were not.
So, but this time we are actually back. Development has finished. We have time on our hands again. We have time to plan. We have time to talk. We have time to figure out what we actually want to do in terms of content for everyone. So I think that's about it for this one. It's pretty exciting to do like a longer form type of podcast video. And I'm excited to do more of those because I think we can add a lot of different kinds of content that wouldn't fit in that short form thing that people normally watch us for. So in general, I'm just excited to get out there again, you know, and start producing stuff.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. And thank you for making it to the end. This is a bit of a different kind of video. We're not going to be talking about ourselves a lot going forward. Like
No.
We're going to be talking about other stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, let us know what you want to see. This we definitely take requests. We obviously can't make all of them, but if there is something like in gaming or in just 3D Blender, Maya, Paint, or anything like that, just let us know, and we'll see what we can get to. The more feature requests or requested videos we have, the better it is. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in future videos.